The most audacious act of disrespect I ever witnessed in 40 years on the bench happened when Police Chief David Martinez actually flashed his badge at me during court proceedings. That Monday morning, he thought his shield would intimidate a sitting judge. By afternoon, he learned that badges don't buy immunity, they create accountability. This catastrophe began with what should have been a simple traffic citation, but nothing involving Chief Martinez was ever simple or straightforward. His son, Roberto Martinez, 22 years old, spoiled heir to a legacy of law enforcement service, crashes his brand new motorcycle doing 90 in a 35 zone through downtown Providence during peak lunch hour traffic. Crash happens at the intersection of Federal Hill and Atwells Avenue, one of the busiest pedestrian areas in the city. Broad daylight, heavy foot traffic, families with children walking to restaurants, elderly couples window shopping, tourists exploring Little Italy. This privileged kid decides city streets are his personal racetrack, where speed limits don't apply to police chief's sons. When Roberto loses control at that speed, his motorcycle becomes a two-wheeled missile that crashes through a sidewalk cafe's outdoor seating area, missing a family of 4 by inches. Tables go flying, umbrellas get shredded. Terrified diners die for cover as 2,000 pounds of metal and flesh careen through what should have been a peaceful lunch scene. By pure luck, nobody gets killed. But it's not Roberto's skill or caution that prevents tragedy. It's physics and providence that keep him from turning multiple families into statistics on the evening news. Officer Patricia Walsh responds to the crash within minutes, finds Roberto conscious but clearly under the influence of multiple substances, reeking of alcohol and marijuana so strongly that other first responders comment on the odor from 20 feet away. His speech is slurred beyond comprehension. His coordination so impaired he can't stand without support. His pupils dilated despite the bright afternoon sunlight. The blood alcohol test shows 0.11, well over the legal 0.08 limit for operating any vehicle, let alone a motorcycle, at triple the posted speed limit through a crowded pedestrian district. Toxicology results reveal marijuana, cocaine, and prescription amphetamines in his system, a cocktail of substances that would impair an elephant, much less a young man operating high-speed machinery in public spaces. Standard DUI processing should follow automatically. Arrest, booking, court appearance, consequences proportional to the danger created. Roberto's looking at serious felony charges, DUI with multiple controlled substances, reckless endangerment of multiple victims, excessive speeding in pedestrian zones, operating under the influence with property damage, and potentially vehicular assault, given how close he came to killing innocent people. These are career-ending consequences for most people, life-changing accountability for dangerous choices that could have resulted in multiple fatalities. In a normal world, with normal families, Roberto would face the music, learn from his mistakes, and hopefully become a better person through consequences. But Roberto Martinez isn't from a normal family, and Chief Martinez doesn't live in a normal world of accountability and consequences. In the Chief's warped universe, family members don't face prosecution for crimes. They get protection, cover-up, and special treatment that ordinary citizens never receive, regardless of how many lives they endanger or laws they break. Within an hour of Roberto's arrest, Chief Martinez arrives at the station like a hurricane, furious that his son is being processed like any other drunk driver who endangered innocent lives. Walsh! He shouts across the booking area, loud enough for everyone to hear his outrage. What the hell do you think you're doing, treating my son like a common criminal? Common criminal. Like drunk driving is somehow elevated when done by police chief's children. Chief, Officer Walsh replied professionally, your son was operating under the influence at excessive speeds. This is a serious DUI case with endangerment charges. Endangerment? Martinez's voice drips with contempt. Walsh, my son, had a minor accident after a few drinks. This isn't endangerment. This is a young man making a mistake that doesn't warrant destroying his future over technicalities. Technicalities. Doing 90 in a 35 zone while drunk is a technicality. Endangering pedestrian families is a technicality. Operating a motorcycle under multiple controlled substances is a technicality. Chief, the blood alcohol toxicology results show clear intoxication, and the speed was nearly triple the legal limit. The results show a young man who had too much to drink and made an error in judgment that doesn't require criminal prosecution. That's when Chief Martinez makes his first crucial mistake. Walsh, he says, stepping closer to intimidate through rank and position. I want these charges reduced to a simple citation. No DUI, no reckless endangerment, no criminal record. My son learns his lesson and moves on with his life. Direct obstruction of justice. Using an official position to interfere with a legitimate criminal prosecution. Abuse of authority to protect family members from consequences. Chief, I can't reduce felony DUI charges. That's not my authority. Everything is your authority when I tell you it's your authority, Martinez snaps. I'm the chief of police in this city. When I say charges get reduced, charges get reduced. But Officer Walsh has integrity that can't be bought with intimidation, threats, or corrupt orders from supervising officers who've forgotten what their badges actually represent. She processes Roberto according to standard DUI procedures, documents every aspect of the chief's interference in her report, and forwards everything to the district attorney's office with detailed notes about attempted obstruction of justice. DA Collins takes one look at the case file and immediately understands that this goes far beyond simple DUI charges or even familial loyalty. When police chiefs use their official positions to obstruct their own family members' prosecutions, that's not misguided parental protection. That's systematic corruption that undermines equal justice under law and creates a two-tier system where badges buy immunity. DA Collins opens a comprehensive investigation into Chief Martinez's history of protecting family members, close friends, and political allies from the consequences of their criminal behavior. What she discovers is a pattern of interference that spans 5 years and involves dozens of cases where Martinez's connections receive special treatment that would never be available to ordinary citizens. The investigation reveals case after case of charges mysteriously disappearing, evidence getting lost, witness statements changing after visits from Chief Martinez's representatives, and prosecutors receiving pressure to reduce charges when Martinez's network was involved. Roberto's older brother Carlos had 3 DUI arrests that never resulted in prosecution. Martinez's nephew was caught dealing drugs at a high school, but never faced charges. The chief's golf buddy was arrested for domestic violence, but the case disappeared. Bank records show Martinez accepting donations from family members who received his protection. Money laundered through shell companies and cash transactions. Over 5 years, Martinez accumulated over $100,000 in unreported income from protection services. Monday morning, I'm reviewing Roberto Martinez's DUI case when my clerk Christina walks in looking concerned. "Judge," she says, "Chief Martinez is here, demanding to see you about his son's case." "Send him in," I tell her. "Let's see what Chief Martinez has to say about obstruction of justice." Chief Martinez storms into my chambers wearing his full uniform, badge prominently displayed, carrying himself like he owns not just the police department, but the entire judicial system. 23 years of service, chest covered with commendations, radiating the arrogance of someone who's never been held accountable for abuse of power. "Judge Caprio," he says, not bothering with pleasantries or proper courtroom etiquette, "we need to resolve this situation with my son immediately before it gets out of hand." "Chief Martinez," I reply, staying seated behind my desk, "your son was arrested for DUI and reckless endangerment. There's nothing to resolve except his court appearance." "Judge," Martinez says, his voice getting harder, "I think you're misunderstanding the nature of this situation. My son made a minor mistake that doesn't warrant the kind of prosecution that destroys promising young men's futures." Minor mistake. Nearly killing pedestrians while drunk and high is a minor mistake. "Chief Martinez," I continue, "your son was doing 90 in a 35 zone while under the influence of alcohol and marijuana. That's not a minor mistake. That's a serious crime." "Judge," he replies, and I can see him getting frustrated that I'm not immediately capitulating, "you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. My son is a good kid who had too much to drink. This should be handled as a family matter, not a criminal case." Family matter. "Chief Martinez, drunk driving isn't a family matter when it endangers public safety." "Public safety?" His voice gets louder, more aggressive. "Judge, my son didn't hurt anyone. This is prosecutorial overreach for what amounts to youthful indiscretion." "He didn't hurt anyone because he got lucky, not because he wasn't dangerous. He got unlucky because overzealous officers decided to make an example of a police chief's family." That's when Chief Martinez makes the move that changes everything and reveals the true depth of his arrogance and corruption. Getting frustrated with my refusal to bend to his will, tired of dealing with a judge who won't be intimidated by rank or position, he stands up from his chair, walks around to my side of the desk, and pulls out his police badge. Not to show identification like a normal citizen proving their credentials. Not to demonstrate his law enforcement status for legitimate purposes, but to wave it in front of my face like some kind of magic talisman that grants wishes, compels obedience, and transforms constitutional authority into personal submission. "Judge Caprio," he says, holding his badge inches from my nose, close enough that I can see every detail of the metal shield that represents everything he's corrupted. "Maybe this will help you understand the situation better. I am the chief of police in this city. This badge means I have authority that municipal court judges need to respect and recognize." Flashing his badge at a sitting judge in my own chambers during official court business, like his piece of metal and leather creates authority over the judicial branch of government, wearing a uniform makes him superior to the constitutional separation of powers. The audacity is breathtaking. 40 years on the bench, dealing with every kind of criminal, corrupt official, and delusional defendant imaginable, I have never had a law enforcement officer try to intimidate me with their badge during official proceedings. "Judge," he continues, still waving the badge like it's a hypnotist's watch, This badge represents 23 years of service, thousands of arrests, community safety, and the authority to make decisions about law enforcement priorities that include how my family gets treated by the judicial system that I help support and protect. He's lecturing me about authority while threatening me with his badge, explaining how his service record justifies corruption, using his shield as a weapon against the very justice system he swore to protect. I look at this corrupt chief waving his badge like it's some kind of immunity card, like a piece of metal can override the Constitution. And I feel something I haven't experienced in 4 decades of judicial service. Not anger. That would be unprofessional. No surprise. I've seen too much corruption to be shocked anymore. But cold, calculated determination to show this bully exactly what authority looks like when it's exercised properly and constitutionally. Chief Martinez, I say, standing up slowly, deliberately, letting the full weight of judicial authority settle into my voice. Put your badge away. Immediately. Judge, I think you need to understand what this badge represents in terms of community authority, law enforcement hierarchy, and the practical realities of how municipal government actually functions when police executives are involved. Chief Martinez, I said, put your badge away. Now. My voice cuts through his rambling like a knife through paper. Judge, he continues, still brandishing the badge like a weapon, completely ignoring my direct order. This badge represents 23 years of dedicated service, thousands of successful arrests, community protection, and the authority to make law enforcement decisions that civilian judges might not fully appreciate or understand. He's still waving his badge, still trying to intimidate me with a symbol of authority he's already corrupted beyond recognition, still believing that wearing a uniform makes him immune to accountability or constitutional oversight. Chief Martinez, I say, my voice getting colder with each word. That badge represents public trust, and you just violated every principle it's supposed to stand for by using it to threaten a sitting judge. I violated nothing. I'm explaining reality about how municipal government works when police chiefs' families are involved. You're explaining corruption, Chief, and you're doing it while threatening a judge with your badge.
I'm not threatening anyone. I'm clarifying authority structures that you seem to misunderstand.
That's when I pick up my phone and dial courthouse security. This is Judge Caprio. I need officers in my chambers immediately to arrest Chief Martinez for intimidation of a judicial officer. Martinez's face goes white.
You can't arrest me. I'm a police chief. I have immunity. I have authority.
Chief Martinez, the only authority you had was the authority to serve justice. You just used it to obstruct justice instead. Within minutes, courthouse security arrives at my chambers. Not Martinez's officers, who might be compromised by loyalty or corruption, but state police troopers who have jurisdiction over crimes involving local law enforcement officials. They take one look at Martinez, still holding his badge like a weapon, still trying to intimidate a sitting judge with his shield, and immediately understand what's happened. Chief Martinez, the lead trooper says, with the professional calm that comes from years of arresting corrupt officials. You're under arrest for intimidation of a judicial officer, obstruction of justice, and abuse of official authority under color of law. This is insane, Martinez shouts as they handcuff him. You can't arrest a police chief for talking to a judge. We can arrest anyone who threatens judicial authority with their badge, the trooper replies. As they read him his Miranda rights, Martinez keeps waving his badge with his free hand, still trying to invoke authority that disappeared the moment he chose corruption over constitutional governance. Judge Caprio, he yells as they lead him toward the door. This badge means something. This uniform means something. You can't treat a decorated police chief like a common criminal. Chief Martinez, I tell him, that badge meant something until you used it to threaten a judge. Now it means nothing. After they remove him, I call an emergency session to address Roberto Martinez's DUI case. Without his father's interference, the case proceeds normally. Roberto pleads guilty to all charges and receives standard DUI penalties: license suspension, fines, jail time, and mandatory alcohol treatment. Chief Martinez's case goes much deeper. Investigation reveals that he's been using his badge to intimidate city officials, judges, and prosecutors for years. Bank records show unexplained cash deposits. Witness testimony reveals systematic protection of family and friends from prosecution. Federal investigators discover that Martinez has been running a protection racket, using his badge as both shield and sword, protecting criminals who pay him while intimidating honest officials who won't cooperate. 2 weeks later, Chief Martinez appeared in federal court on charges of conspiracy, extortion, civil rights violations, and threatening judicial officers. No badge this time. That was confiscated as evidence of crimes committed under color of law. Chief Martinez, the federal judge tells him during sentencing, you used your badge as a weapon against the very justice system you swore to protect. That badge represented public trust, and you betrayed it completely. Martinez receives 8 years in federal prison, forfeiture of all pension benefits, and permanent revocation of law enforcement credentials. The badge he waved so proudly becomes evidence in a criminal trial that destroys his career, his freedom, and his reputation. The new police chief, Captain Rodriguez, implements comprehensive reforms: independent oversight, zero tolerance for corruption, and mandatory training on constitutional limitations of police authority. The first lesson in the new curriculum uses the Martinez case as an example of how badges become meaningless when used for personal gain instead of public service. 6 months later, I received a letter from a police academy recruit, Judge Caprio. Our instructor showed us the Martinez video where he flashes his badge at you. They used it to teach us that badges create responsibility, not immunity. Thank you for showing that even police chiefs answer to the Constitution. Chief Martinez learned that flashing a badge at a judge is the fastest way to lose it forever.